All right, so welcome back. We're still in chapter 12. Chapter 12 is a long chapter. A lot of material that's going on in here. On the bright side, you are only responsible for about 100% of it. All right? So one of the things we talked about in the last session, I want to catch up here today. I just want to make sure I got to thinking over the break, and I thought, I want to do some math to make sure everybody understands completely what we're talking about. So what we've got here is a little practice question I want you guys to do. It says, how much interest did I pay on a $125,000 purchase if I've got an 80% loan to value and 4.5% interest rate?
Over 30 years is 30 years.
Yeah, but typically this question implies the first year. How much interest will I pay this first year, simple interest, at a $125,000 purchase with an 80% loan to value at 4.5% interest? Yes? Huh? D? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Everybody get, the answer is, drum roll please, D. Right, there's the key. It's a $125,000 purchase, but I want to know the interest is on the loan amount, so it's an 80% loan to value, which means my loan is only $100,000. 4.5% of $100,000 is $4,500. So that's the typical question that will be on a state exam. Now, you guys remember, we can do this 2 or 3 ways, and I didn't do it. I could say if I paid $4,500 in interest on a $100,000 loan, how much was my interest rate? Because they can move these around, and they often do that. So it may not always be in that form. It may ask you, if I paid 4.5% interest and paid $4,500, how much was the loan? That's $100,000.
If they don't specify, or will it always, is it 80%?
It's not always 80%. They will specify. All right? Sometimes they will make it easier. They'll just tell you on a $100,000 loan all right? I put a twist in there by adding the LTV. Okay? All right, so where we left off was page 218, and what we're going to talk about and finish up chapter 12, this section, is the different types of loans that you are going to see in your career. The first loan I want to talk about in your book is called a straight loan. A straight loan. Now, a straight loan implies that all of one portion is paid first, then all of one portion is paid second. So, for instance, in this one example, all of the interest would be paid first. So all of the payment that you make, whatever that is, so let's make up a number, $750 a month. All $750 would go towards the interest. And you would pay off all the interest that you accumulate first. Then, after some time period, all the $750 would go to pay the principal at the end. In the math world, there is a curve on this. It's just a zero, an undefined slope, so it looks like a vertical line. So what I'm showing you is the first 17 payments may be interest and the rest are principal. Or the first 19 or 80, I don't know. Whatever the interest turns out to be. So you'd pay all interest first, all principal second. That's called a straight loan. Now, there is a version of the straight loan that we use a lot. and it has a separate name. It's called an interest-only loan. Well, let me back up by saying, in a true straight loan where they pay interest and principal, at the end of paying all of the principal, your balance is zero. That's how it works, okay? There is a version of a straight loan that's more popular that we call interest only, where you only pay the interest on the loan and you never pay any of the principal. Basically, you're renting the money, all right? The balance at the end of the interest time frame is still originally what you started with. That's the big difference. A straight loan, a true straight loan, pays interest, then principal, and when you're done, the balance is zero. An interest-only loan pays all of the interest, and when you're done, your balance is exactly what you started with. All right? Because all you're paying is interest only. Sounds like a stupid loan, doesn't it? There are some reasons for an interest-only loan. All right? So when you get to the end of the interest time frame and you owe that balance of my mythical $100,000 house, how do I make one payment of $100,000 and pay it off? There are two ways to do that. What are they? Sell it would be one, or refinance it would be the other. Both of those are reasons why. Let me give you an example. A really good reason to use an interest-only loan is maybe in a market like the old Florida market. You buy a house today, and in 3 years, it's worth 40% more. All right? So what you do is you buy it, you pay low minimum monthly payments because you're only paying the interest, and then in 4 years, when you go to sell it, you sell it for $125 or $140, pay off the $100,000, you make the $40,000 profit.
So are those typically a lower interest rate then?
Well, it's not a lower interest rate, but because you're not paying a principal portion, your monthly payment's lower because you're only paying the interest portion of that payment. All right? A lot of investors use this to fund developers. If a developer could pre-sell 100 condos for 100 grand, he doesn't have to go to the bank. And then when he gets done building them, they're now worth 130 or 140. The person that prepaid that 100 now can sell it and make the money. So that's a good reason to use an interest only because your monthly payments are lower. Another one might be for the refinance would be some kind of investment property where you want the low monthly payments so your profit each month is higher. And then you refinance it and just move that payment out another 5 years and keep going. So the interest-only loan is common in very certain scenarios. All right, especially in markets where there's high profit quickly, like the old California market, Seattle, Florida, East Coast, things like that. Or in the investment world, commercial guys use it as well. Okay? So straight loan means all one portion first, then all the other. And a version of the straight loan is the interest only that we pay, that we use. All right, the next one I want to talk about is this word that you guys are probably the most common or familiar with, is this loan called an amortized loan. Amortized is a Latin word. It means kill off slowly, which is what I thought marriage was, but that's a whole nother thing. What you see in this picture is a curve on the chart. In the previous picture, remember I told you this, there's a curve in this one too. It's just an undefined slope, so it looks vertical, which we call a straight line. In that one, the curve represents the fact that each payment has some portion of interest and some portion of principal. Another term for this loan is sometimes you hear it called a level payment loan. This is so people can budget their monthly payment, their monthly budget. I want to buy a house. I'm going to amortize it over 30 years, and my annual or my monthly payment is $750 a month. In the example I started this with my note here, 100 grand at 5.33%, at the end, I've paid 200,000 back. How much of that 200,000 is principal? 100. How much is interest? 100. So that's why people do this. That's why lenders do this. So each monthly payment is some combination of a principal amount and an interest amount. Remember, straight loan, all interest, then principal. In this one, it's a combination of principal and interest. If you expand it and go the full term so that at the end, what you're left with is zero, this is said to be fully amortized. I fully amortized the loan, which means I took a balance all the way down to zero. You can stop somewhere in the middle. They call this partially amortized. And when you get in the business, there's some really fun, cool slang ways of saying this. 30-year AM, 5-year call. Means it's amortized like it's a 30-year loan, but in 5 years they're going to call it due, and you would have to use a balloon payment to pay off the amount that's left over. 30-year AM, 10 years. Typical commercial is 20-year AM, 5-year call. So it's amortized like it's 20 years of loan, but in 5 years, you're either going to have to sell that or refinance it with a balloon payment, and they're telling you up front. 5-year AM would make your payment really high, so they do a 20-year AM like they're going to do it, but they call it sooner. All right? That's very common. They do that so that in 5 years they can readjust the interest on the loan so that no one's getting really cheated. If the loan drastically, or the interest rates drastically change, the bank can raise it or you can have it lowered if it goes down. That's why they do that, instead of being stuck with a 30-year in the commercial world. Some of us in the residential world want to get stuck with a 30-year interest rate. You know, my mom said, oh, should we refinance? I'm like, no, you got 3.75. You refinance now, you're at 5. So stick with that. All right, we're going to end this one and keep going, so hold on.